coffee don't work. No, I will, I did, I got mine over that day, and try to get the money back, but we got
Yeah, we do that.
well,
Because you're waiting for 10,000 a year and 5,000 a year, and your worker would look at that and say, oh, that's like, oh yeah, well, we're paying 35 for insurance, and we got a $3,600 tax bill for the state, and we got a $7,800 tax bill for the federal. Unless you've done it, you really don't understand. That's the thing. I think just and all of a sudden I see this bill where they're gonna get their college paid. We're getting out of, we're getting way out in people. It's too far out. It needs to stop. The college should be based on merit. You know, if you complete your first year of college, then
Did you see the note I sent to Senator Grant? I sent him an email explaining so bad, and I explained why, and then I said, I'll have to swing by this morning. So, but I copied you. This is fine, yeah.
you know, when I went to school, the first year, I had two brothers.
So, no, I told him one.
State college, and then my brother.
And it definitely says, the three entities have to do something, not just, it should be fine, but I'm gonna swing by just in case.
Yeah.
You just have what you said, it's unprepared. You got hold on that money back. Then I get $100 in there, I went and that's
That's why I kept reading it, so I talked about it.
All right, we're gonna come to order. We're gonna go from the sign-up sheet, Delegate O'Quinn. There he is. Ready? Fire away, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have House Bill 803. And what this bill essentially does is allow those who have quit school at 16 or 17 to be eligible to take their GED. Essentially, long story short, they now would have to wait until they were 18. The thinking here and the testimony that we heard on the House side is if someone is willing and able to study for that test, which is a tough test, and essentially get back in the pipeline, the faster that happens, the better chance they have of actually succeeding. And if they take the initiative at 16 or 17 to do this, then their chances of being successful down the road would be far higher.
Right. Are any questions from the committee? Anyone in the audience like to speak in favor? Anyone in the audience in opposition? All right. It's been a motion and a second. Second to report the bill. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Or you don't need to be at the full committee.
Thank you.
Always good to hear.
thank you. All right. Tori.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and committee. I'm here on House Bill HB 1044, and it deals with providing a healthy workplace in the school. HB 1044 promotes a healthy workplace and allows school board employees to focus on the education of the students and imposes no fiscal impact on the budget. HB 1044 requires school boards to have a policy to address abusive conduct in the workplace. In this bill, abusive conduct is defined as when a school board employee engages in conduct in the workplace that a reasonable person would find hostile, that is severe enough to cause physical harm or psychological harm to another school board employee. Mr. Chairman and committee, we're doing all that we can to address among our students bullying in the school system, but what we have also come to learn is that among colleagues and employees that there has been episodes of harassment in the workplace that pretty much in some instances have gone unaddressed. And I think that if we're going to address the whole issue of providing a safety environment for our students to be educated, where they can come and feel free to focus on their education, then we certainly should be able to provide an environment for employees as well, so that when they come, they're free to understand that they're there to educate our students. And I think that we set an outstanding example when we put forth an effort to say to employees of our school system, you do not have to worry about coming here to be harassed or where you cannot focus on the kind of work that we're asking you to do, and that is to educate our kids and keep them in a productive environment.
Right. So as you know, we were talking about this.
And I do have an answer for you.
Good.
I have spoken to members of my school board, supports this effort.
Okay. All right, any questions of the committee of the committee? All right, anyone in the audience like to speak in favor?
Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee, Kathy Berkshire with the Virginia Education Association. A few sessions ago, the VEA worked with the General Assembly to pass bullying legislation that requires school divisions to have anti-bullying policies. The intent and the hope from our membership was certainly that would translate to not just the students, but all of the people who are working in the building and learning in the building. Keeping in mind that a teacher's working conditions are a student's learning conditions, so we are very hopeful that those would translate. We have school divisions where certainly they have taken that step to translate those anti-bullying policies into employee policies as well, but not all of our school divisions have done that. This bill would simply require the school boards in all of the school divisions in Virginia to adopt policies, and I know there are model policies currently available that they could adopt, and we think this is a really good step to ensure that not only are our children not susceptible to bullying in school and their learning environment, but our teachers and our other school board employees aren't in the work environment as well. So we support the bill.
Thank you. You want to speak in favor? All right, Senator Pete.
I'm sorry, ma'am, or Mr. Delegate Toria, are these types of behaviors not covered already under general employment law or civil law for the Commonwealth?
Yes, sir.
Either way, it's both, or either, sorry. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Pete, it depends, and certainly, you know, if there's physical violence, certainly that would be, but some of the nuances that we're seeing include suddenly you've been observed 5 times, and each of your observations is suddenly negative when they have been in the past years, or under a previous principal, or under a previous administrator here in the central office. And so there's some nuances there that we think that this type of policy would protect you from when it doesn't go to the place of criminal. Civil, you could probably make an argument for that there's an opportunity there, but typically teachers want to keep their jobs. And if you're in an environment that's already hostile, the likelihood of then taking the additional step to go after a administrator in a civil case is really, really low.
So let me ask, Kathy, it's probably in for you, but, Cindy, can I ask a question about State Board of Education, what you guys do as far as why we would need law? Do you all have the authority to set forth policies for harassment in the workplace? Are we opening ourselves up to a lawsuit if we do this and there has been some past harassment that's took place?
Senator, I'm not an attorney, but
Nor am I.
the Board of Education's regulations with the schools, really don't deal with personnel matters, because it's up to school boards to manage their employees. And so, a board doesn't regulate over human resource policies.
So you don't have any policies that come from the state down to the school boards to?
It was direct them, yeah, because it's their employees.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right,
And that's, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Peake.
And I, Ms. Delegate Toyin or whoever just, is there anything that prevents school boards from issuing these policies on their own currently?
I think we're gonna hear that on the opposition
All right.
side.
Thank you, all right.
All right, anyone else like to speak in favor of the bill? All right, opposition.
Mr. Chairman, Stacey Haney, School Association. We do have concerns with the bill. I don't disagree with the intent of, prohibiting harassment in the workplace, but school boards already have policies that prohibit harassment in the workplace. Obviously, we have state and federal law that certain types of harassment are unlawful, but school boards already have policies that go beyond what the law requires and prohibits harassment that this legislation is trying to get at. As you may know, the School Boards Association provides a policy service where we provide hundreds and hundreds of model policies to all of our member school boards. And by and large, school boards adopt model policies. And our model policy has a provision that, like what the bill would require, goes beyond federal law and prohibits harassment. The law prohibits harassment based on protected classification, race, gender, Our model policy goes beyond that and prohibits improper harassment, even if it's not on the basis of some protected classification. So, most school boards already prohibit this type of behavior. If you wanted to go further, or describe the prohibited behavior in the way that the bill would require, school boards can already do that. I know the delegate mentioned that his school board, I've looked at their policy, they have a policy that prohibits this type of harassment. They have, training available, about this type of harassment. So I just think that it's unnecessary because we can and do already prohibit this type of
Mr.
thing.
Chair,
Senator Howe.
I know the school boards always, come out against anything that requires them to do anything. But you've already said most of them have such policies, and have done it voluntarily. If one were to want all of them to do it, how would we do it other than a bill like this?
You're right, I'm not aware of any school boards that don't already, prohibit harassment.
Then, Mr. Chairman, what's the objection?
It's unnecessary. It's unnecessary.
Senator Stoll. I'm sorry. She wasn't stalling.
So I think that my concern about this bill is not the line 38 on, it's line 17 through 37. And when you codify certain language, then there is a litigation opportunity. And I think I'm totally in support. It's the descriptive language that you have here, and we all know human beings, and there are very reasonable ones that are taken advantage of, and there are very manipulative ones that take advantage, and that can be both on the administrative and the teacher side. And we are empowering a lot of risk for my particular school board they're very concerned about changing their policy to reflect all the language in your descriptives. If we were to remove that and to simply say each school board shall adopt policies, I could support this bill. But it is the description and the confinement of that language that makes it such a concern for the school boards who already have policies. And I think if we could agree to do that, that may be a place we could go. But the way the language is now, you're opening a can of worms, and your intentions are so good, and you're trying to protect people who I'm sure have come to you and have had these situations, but I think you're creating some unintended consequences.
Tom?
We're opposed for the reasons stated by the senator and by the school board.
Okay. All right, anyone else in the audience like to speak to the bill? Doug, Corey.
Mr. Chairman, I thank everyone for voicing their concerns, and what we do not have in place, we have not codified such a law in place that requires school boards to be held accountable for these kinds of situations that we see throughout our Commonwealth. And if there are other language, Senator, that you think that we could utilize, I'd be open to an amendment. But I think we need to send a message to all of our school board employees and to the students that they serve, that we take harassment, we take bullying seriously, not only among students, but among adult employees as well. And
So-
I firmly believe that, sir.
So do you understand, what Senator Donovan is saying about if we do it the way that you have it written, what could be,
Mr. Chairman, I do hear the senator, but the school board have the flexibility and the latitude to design their own policy.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Donovan?
would you consider an amendment that strikes lines 16 to 37? And that would allow school boards to adopt a policy. You still are directive. It says shall, it's not permissive. They shall direct the policy, but it removes the language that puts, I think, some of the school boards that didn't have this language would have to redraft the policy they have now.
I yield to my VA rep for comment.
Mr. Chairman, I think that's fine, and what we would like to see is to be kind of exactly what Senator Howell mentioned, is assurance that every school division does adopt the model policies available to them. You know, the definitions, I think, are important, but certainly to move this bill forward, we are supportive of removing those lines.
All right, so there's a motion to remove line 16 through 37. And it's been seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, now we have a bill before us as amended directing, school boards to adopt a policy on harassment.
Move to recommend report.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. We recommend a report. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, reported. You don't need to be there. Unless you're wanting to change it back. All right, Delegate Davis. Hold on just a second. Delegate Bagby, we called you, you were number 2 on the list.
Mine is super easy.
Yeah, I noticed.
We like that.
And I believe the Department of Education is here for the HB, Mr. Chair, HB 829, compulsory attendance. Currently, the code requires parents, guardians, and others having control or charge of a child to send the child to school. The proposal amends this statute to instead require those individuals in the languages cause such child to attend school.
Right. Kathy, you want to speak to it? We all understand.
Just briefly, Cindy Kay, Department of Education.
I mean, Cynthia, I'm sorry. It's been a long week.
It's been a long session.
It's been a tough week.
Not just session.
Yes, we're grateful to Delegate Bagby. The problem came to our attention, that came about as a result of the Supreme Court decision, Blake versus Commonwealth, that said just using the word "send" was not enough to ensure that parents were complying with the school attendance law. And so there had to be other language to ensure that, when
on the committee have any questions? Anyone in the audience like to speak in opposition or in favor? Hearing none. It's been recommended and seconded that we report the bill. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No reason, no reason to show up.
Happy Friday.
Those are happy days. Delegate Davis.
Mr. Chairman, House Bill 1530 is just a Section 1 bill that directs the Board of Education to make recommendations before next year on how we can work to eliminate the stigma associated with high school students not going to college and going straight into the workforce, as there's such great opportunities now, and also how we can streamline our diploma system into one diploma with multiple seals and endorsements, as opposed to the advanced and the standard diploma, where the definition right now of an advanced diploma just means you took 3 years of a foreign language as opposed to 3 years of robotics, and I would say the latter is probably as advanced, if not more so, in today's age.
Okay. Any questions of the favor? Anyone in the audience like to speak in favor?
Mr. Chairman.
Yep, come on up.
Mr. Chairman, Brett Massey, Virginia Manufacturers Association. We thank the patron, we work with him on this bill. In our industry, we have the oldest workforce in the Commonwealth. We need about 6,600 licensed and industry recognized folks per year. So it's a new opportunity for young people, 18 to 26, to actually enter our field. They had an opportunity in about 20 years. We know we have a workforce organization that operates in 17 states and 85 high schools in Virginia. And the kids are still not getting the information that they need about career exploration for science and technology. It's still the college or bust. And they just feel like they're a failure if they don't have another option. So what he's doing is a fantastic choice of giving more career pathways to kids younger. And you're getting very slow to us today on the same subject. So we hope you support it.
Thanks.
Chris Dolby, Cook VA, we support the bill.
All right, thanks. Senator Dunn.
Just one comment.
Sure.
And that is that I just wish it didn't say any stigma. I wish it were expressed in the affirmative and said, saw the return on investment and value of direct entry into the workforce through skills acquired in high school or technical schools.
Mr. Chairman, I can definitely appreciate that. But when I go into these schools, they're blunt, there's a stigma. And I thought about trying to switch it and make it sound more positive, but I really want to attack it for what it is. These kids are being shoved with the stigma. I remember when I was in middle school, I wasn't that great of a student. I was a C+ student, and my uncle was a master technician for Nissan. One of the first ones to work on the 300Z, and I wanted to be a car mechanic. And when I said that to my guidance counselor, she called my mom and said, Glenn's too smart, he makes too much good grades. This is not where, kids like him don't go to VOTech, and like I said, I was a C student. And we have kids today that truly think that if the parents can't send them to college, that they can't be something. We know that's wrong, but we got to get rid of that stigma that exists. So I do appreciate, and I tried to find a positive way to do it, but I wanted to attack it for what it is. There's a stigma that still exists from our generation, that if you go to VOTech, if you come out with vocational training, if you're the welder, the plumber, that you're not quite as advanced as those coming out going into that 4-year degree field, and that's not the case. And that's why I framed it the way I did, and talking to some students, they had kind of that same feeling, so I can appreciate it, but that's kind of where I went with it.
Mr. Chair, I would agree that that's the problem. The solution is valuing the alternative to a 4-year degree. The solution is not removing the stigma. You remove the stigma by making that valuable.
The 4-year degree?
No,
Oh.
the technical degree, the immediate entry into the workforce, the money that you can make doing that, the idea that 35% of people drop out of 4-year degree programs. You value the alternative as opposed to you remove the stigma. But that's
Sure.
just.
No, I appreciate that. I think there's definitely probably an angle there with some of that too.
All right, anyone in opposition to the bill? All right, any other comments from the committee? All right. Anyone want to make a motion on the bill? Is there a second? All right, it's been moved and seconded that we report the bill. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the bill's reported.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the insights. Thank you so much.
Elliot Myers. Good morning.
Thank you. I have HB 167. Came out with an amendment in nature of a substitute. So it simply requires the Board of Education to establish criteria.
Do you have a substitute?
It came out, it's
Okay,
funny,
all right.
sorry. For STEM, for some STEM seals, approved diplomas in the current law, such diploma seal is simply limited to scope of technology and advanced mathematics. Mr. Chairman, this is a move that several states have begun the process of instructing their Board of Education to have the criteria to award STEM diplomas and science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And have any questions from you?
Any questions to take? Anyone in the audience like to speak in favor?
Emergency Subcommittee, Kathy Burke, Virginia Education Association, and we support the bill.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone in opposition? Hearing none? It's been moved and seconded, we recommend report. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Bill is reported 5-0. Delegate Pogge.
Mr. Chairman, House Bill 1470 is really just clarifying the nation. It adds 3 words to the code concerning
homeschooling, I'm sorry. And basically, it defines and clarifies that it is the responsibility of homeschooling parent to provide the child with a program of study or curriculum which may be delivered through a correspondence course or distant learning program. And so it clarifies that it's the responsibility of the parent to provide the child with this. In the second paragraph that's not been amended, that's the paragraph clarifying what the parent has to provide to the school board or the superintendent. So there was a little question on who that was to be provided to provide the child with that curriculum.
Any questions? Anyone in the audience like to speak in favor of the bill?
I'm Ann Hoosick with the Home Educators Association, and we support the bill.
Okay. Anyone else? Anyone in opposition? All right, hearing none.
Recommend report.
It's been moved and seconded to recommend report. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Those reported. They've recently come back to Education Committee. So. Never, yeah. Delegate Yancey.
Morning, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning.
What House Bill 329 seeks to achieve, members of my school board and city Newport News, is an effort to have a student in the a student in the Commonwealth system that can graduate from a school system with their high school diploma, with additional credit for university or community college level, as well as they get 1 or 2 trade certificates.
So I'll start again, Mr. Chairman. So House Bill 329, this is an idea in working with 2 members of my Newport News school board system in a way to prepare young people for the workforce so that when they graduate from a high school in the Commonwealth, they can graduate with their high school diploma. They can take online education or community college education to work towards their university credits and maybe graduate with up to 2 trade certificates, so that the idea would be 3 to 4 pieces of paper when they graduate, if you will. So this is just an effort to prepare young people for the workforce. It's a way to get, well, there you go, it's just a way to get young people prepared for the workforce with many opportunities, and that's what the bill seeks to achieve, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Any questions, Dave? All right. Senator Dunn.
So Delegate Yancey, just looking at lines 127 and 128, does this allow them to get credits that do not lead to a full degree, certificate, or credential, or are you just assuming that's already allowed through?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Donovan, the challenge has been in some institutions where the principal would often be the barrier to entry. In one case, there's a student in the City of Newport News system that the principal was a barrier to the entry, and so what had to happen was that they were taking an online university course from an Ivy League school. It was unclear as to why this child could not actually get into that system. So the thought process here is, lines 127, 128, is that in order to exceed it, the young person, if they're capable of achieving it, obviously can go on and take additional credits to help them prepare as they get into the workforce. Some students have indicated that ability to do so. Some students can demonstrate their ability to do so. And again, it boils down to simply this: it's not a mandate that they shall. It's just an opportunity for a young person, and just using Newport News as an example only. They can graduate with a high school diploma. They can graduate with a trade certificate to enter into workforce, say at the Newport News Shipbuilding, or take college-related credits from Thomas Nelson. Perhaps maybe say get some of their university credits, so that when they graduate, they go on to the 4-year school. They already have some credits that are done, that they've already taken, and therefore that's more or less courseload at university level, maybe even saving them some college-related debt.
Any other questions? Anyone in the audience like to speak in favor? Anyone in the audience opposed? All right. Is there a motion on the bill? It's been moved and seconded, we recommend report. All in favor say aye. All opposed? All right, bill's reported.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members. Thank you.
Thank you. Delegate Ford. Oh, I'm sorry, Carol, please. Thought that may be the first thing.
Oh, yeah. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the subcommittee. Before I begin, there's an amendment I would like for the committee to consider.
All right.
So, my bill, House Bill 443, bills off the work Delegate Greason passed in 2016. House Bill 831, to make coding a statewide priority by incorporating computational thinking into K-12 education. So what my bill does, it applies only to a small group of subset of students, only English as a second language learner students who have tested proficient in advanced placement class or an international baccalaureate class. They have the option of, instead of taking another foreign language class, to actually take coding. So coding has been made a statewide priority. What this bill does is give students who have already tested proficient in a second language the option of taking coding. One of the reasons this is really important is because they have the ability to then enter the workforce with this coding ability and knowledge and certification, and can actually enter the workforce. I have handouts where there are several types of jobs.
Do we have an amendment or a substitute that you
Mr. Chair, thank you. Just on line 125 after 17, strike provide for the substitution through 18 on line 128. So it takes out the piece about
Disability.
yeah, correct.
And, sorry.
Is there a motion on that amendment? It's been moved and seconded, we adopt the amendment. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? All right.
And so the reason for the change for the amendment was to take out the disabilities piece until we can do the Chef study to see how it would affect actually students who take the coding class in lieu of the foreign language for students who have disabilities. You don't have the same issues with English as a second language learners because they've already tested proficient fulfilling the foreign language requirement that institutes of higher learning would need or want. And so also, as I was saying, the had my legislative assistant pool, there are actually several jobs that a student can enter into with nothing but a high school diploma and having taken a coding class, and the starting pay is $20 an hour. And so that's why this initiative is so important, so they won't have to take on vocational or community college debt in order to be able to enter straight into the workforce. So I know the other concern that was brought to my attention is that coding is not a foreign language class, and I can see to that. I'm not saying that it is. I completely understand, but we're not substituting one for the other. We're saying you have the option of taking this coding class instead of another foreign language class, and this is really imperative to students who have no intention of going to college and just want to enter the workforce and be prepared by taking this coding certification.
So you're gonna give each student an option of whether they take Spanish or whatever is offered and take the coding class.
It's only applicable for students who are English as a second language learners and who have tested proficient in advanced placement or an IB class. So it's only eligible for those, only that group is eligible. It's narrowly drawn.
Okay. Senator Donovan.
Just to clarify, you're looking to replace this language requirement for an advanced diploma?
No. What happens is that in order to be able to take the coding class and be eligible for it, you have to fall into a small subset. You have to be an English as a second language learner student, and you have had to have tested proficient in that second language, and you've shown and demonstrated that proficiency because you would have passed an AP or IB class.
I understand that, but can't they already demonstrate efficiency through testing out in the language? And isn't it only for an advanced diploma that you need to have? It's not required, language is not only required for an advanced diploma?
I think, Cindy, can you answer that?
I knew you were gonna call.
That's why your head was down.
So now, the superintendent can waive the 140 clock hours for a test within the SOI. If the student demonstrates proficiency. So, I'm not sure how this would apply. I need to look back, look at my SOA. I do know that you can waive the 140 clock hours in terms of getting credit for a course if you test and show or demonstrate proficiency. But I don't know about testing out of a foreign language requirement. I tend to say no, you can't test out of a foreign language requirement.
Mr. Chair, I mean no harm to the bill. I'm just saying that it makes sense that if you're actually are English as a second language, that you could demonstrate proficiency in your first language and test out of that for any reason.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, is that possible? So say Spanish is my first language and I come to America, do I really have to take Spanish in high school? Do I have to take a foreign language in high school? I can't test out without demonstrating proficiency?
You would have to earn foreign language credit. I don't know that you could earn it, but like I said, you could show proficiency if your superintendent requested a waiver of your 140 clock hours. If you show proficiency, you would get credit for that.
Seems that would just be such a great opportunity for us to help English as second language learners, because that's something they actually have an advantage for. But I won't harm this bill, but we'll think about that for next year.
I agree with the direction Senator Donovan is going. It's broader than what the delegate is suggesting, and I think we should think about it, but she's got an important bill, so I recommend reporting.
All right, let me just make sure no one in the audience is in opposition. Anyone in the audience in opposition to the bill?
Members of the subcommittee, Kathy Birch with the Virginia Education Association, and I will say that the amendment that the delegates put forward helps us. We believe very strongly at the BEA that the intent of foreign language is very different than the intent of coding. I think what both Senators Donovan and Senator Howell are describing around assuring that we're supporting our English language learners who come with that skill set is going to be important to look at. So it's not really opposition. I just wanted to flag that concern. It was a little bit of opposition prior to the amendment. So appreciate the potential for work off sessions to really enable our English language learners to take full advantage of the skill set they come with. So it's kind of neither.
Okay.
Just wanted to flag that.
Also not speaking in opposition, but similar to what the VEA has just said, we at Code VEA, computer science teacher training and advocacy, believe the same. There's a vast difference between foreign language and computer science. We think that this bill actually is a very good bill in terms of opening up opportunities for students. In fact, we actually see the computer science piece of it as almost
as amended before us. Is there a motion? It's been moved and seconded that we report the bill as amended. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So it's reported.
Thank you.
We have no reason to come back to the board. Last bill, Delegate Boulevard. Good morning.
Thank you very much. This is House Bill 632, and it actually dovetails rather nicely with your conversation with Delegate Davis earlier on about the shortfall that we're experiencing in industrial and skilled labor. And I think, as you all know and have acknowledged, these are really good paying jobs. They don't require a four-year college education, but they do require industry certifications and apprenticeships. And I think the concerning part is that the crisis is actually just getting larger in terms of losing skilled labor and not having enough to go ahead and bring in. One of the conundrums is that this isn't an issue necessarily of having the training resources out there. Virginia Manufacturing Association, on their own dime, has implemented a very aggressive program. The Virginia Construction Trades Council has something very similar, and then the General Assembly has put a lot of money into our community colleges with career and workforce development. The underlying issue is that many of our students don't realize what their career options really are because they haven't been exposed to them in any real meaningful way. And so over the last 6 months or so, we've been working with the Manufacturing Association, with the Construction Trades Council, and also with the Department of Education to come up with the bill that we have before you today. And so what it does is really three things. And so the first one is to have the Board of Education develop curriculum and career investigation, to have that implemented in middle school, either through a standalone course, but I think what most school divisions will probably do is integrate that curriculum within other courses that are out there. And middle school is really the sweet spot for when students start to really think about these kind of programs. And it's also when they fill out their career and academic plan. The second one is to have the Board of Education develop materials for and provide those to your school divisions so that when you do have a student that says, hey, I'm interested in being a welder, I'm interested in going into an industry, that the school can actually turn around and say, oh, that's great, here's the kind of certifications that you might want to look at, here's the kind of apprenticeships that you might want to look at. And then the final thing, and I think this is really cool, is that right now in middle school you do have that academic plan that you have to put together, but it's very static. It's a piece of paper. And so what this does is ask the board to look at how do we make that more dynamic. And so whether you can get that up on the cloud, but just some way so that it becomes a tool throughout the academic career of a student. And so that's what the bill does. Again, the manufacturers and the Construction Trades Council folks have worked very hard on this. It also has the support of several contractor organizations and the Chamber of Commerce. And I know Cindy Cave has worked with us very, very closely, and I believe the department is excited about this initiative as well.
I think what you're doing here basically gets to the questions Senator Donovan had of Delegate Davis when she wanted to remove the stigma part, and now you're teaching these kids early on the importance of it, and the school, having the school involvement of it. Anyone in the audience like to speak?
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Kim McKay with the Virginia Chamber of Commerce. We're very supportive of the bill and giving students access and career exposure in middle school.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, Brett Bass, Virginia Manufacturers Association. We do support to Senator Donovan's point. This is the aspirational part that fits with these two. The other thing I'll say is the enactment clause at the end with the academic and career plan. This gives an opportunity for kids to actually have that resource into the future in maybe some sort of virtual environment too, so they have a lifelong credentialing system so they can show folks.
Mr. Chairman, Kathy Bertram, Mr. Chairman, members of Kathy Bertram, Virginia Education Association, and I will say what Delegate Bulova described in that middle school career path, I currently have a high school senior and sophomore, could not be more true. We filled that out as required in middle school, and we haven't looked at it since. So we are very supportive of this bill and ensuring that we make sure our students all the way through have
I'm sorry, I just have one question. With the high school redesign and the modules that you all, is this kind of the modules that you all were making for middle school that was?
Yes, ma'am, we're already developing, middle school courses where students can explore their interest and their skills. And this will work very nicely.
Now, I would love if you had one on, different education levels that was kind of the entry point, because as I understand, those are clusters. I'm interested in healthcare. So you go into this module and it does everything from, medical assistant to physician. And that's kind of expansive, but if you had people who could see the value of technical education and return on investment, the only other thing I'll say to connect dots is Wizard is what the community colleges use, and they actually have active modules in there to talk about career development, and Wizard is what they're changing into the community college portal. That will be a way that anybody can figure out everything about getting a higher ed degree, not just community college. If we could put the kids in Wizard in middle school, as they build your virtual program, as they build their virtual plan, that will keep them potentially connected as they make decisions through high school. So a lot of using one, one model, one tool, so that we have that.
So we keep the career plan.
Bingo. So Wizard is your friend.
And we do use Wizard now, the
Yeah.
counselors, and we feel as though having an interactive, activity career plan is something that parents can access, students can access, and you can keep up to date. It's dynamic.
Right.
Will help us as we.
And if DOE could work with the community colleges, they create the portal, they already have the veterans portal that they're gonna build on, they've got funding for that and everything this year. It'd be important that we connect middle school through higher.
Try to keep that career plan going, so I understand what you're saying.
Great. Senator Howe.
I just wanted to comment, I'm really pleased with this bill, the direction it's going. I wish in the future we'll put more emphasis on elementary grades. Way back, they mention it, but it's in passing. And 40-some years ago, when I was PTA elementary school president, we were trying desperately to figure out how to introduce elementary school kids to different opportunities, because we found that actually within the communities, there's kind of a cluster of what the parents do, and there's not much diversity, and we never could crack that. But I hope somebody smarter than me thinks about it.
All right. Favor of, or?
I think this bill does some really good things. And actually, it does require, it's not quite impassive that mentions elementary school, because it does require, the board to establish content standards and curriculum guidelines for course and career investigation, elementary, middle, and high school. So that, I think, is actually pretty significant for, elementary school. So I think the bill does some good things. It's gonna provide some good resources to the schools, and we really appreciate the flexibility that the bill gives us in how we provide that content to our middle school students by allowing us to either have a dedicated course or to weave the content into courses that we already provide. So we appreciate that flexibility that it gives us.
All right, anyone else, anyone in opposition? Hearing none, is there a technical amendment that?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. On line 261, there's a reference to a regulation. I've got to double check with my editing staff, but I think we spaced that out, so it would be 8 space VAC space 20-131 instead of all together.
It's been moved second that we adopt the technical amendment. All in favor say aye. All opposed, there's a motion to report, is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to report the bill. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, all right. Bill's reported, don't need to show up at the full meeting.
Appreciate it. Have a great weekend.
All right, we're adjourned.